So this survey involves one of my favourite subjects, equine urine and manure, and it's all to do with hygroscopic salts. These are benign, they're not a source of moisture, but they cause damp spots and they're often treated for rising damp, as in this case where the neighbours had their property treated for rising damp, despite them being hygroscopic salts, and they have just been quoted, I think it was £2,000 or £3,000 to have their place damp proofed against rising damp, when in fact they're caused by hygroscopic salts.
So as a background, the owners have been in the property for about 47 years, I think, and this dampness, which is about probably 800 mil above the ground, started showing 2 years ago, and it started here and it's progressed, and the neighbours had the same issue. They sold about last summer, and as part of the sale process, a damp proofer went in next door, and I'll show you the video from next door, but they put in damp proofing across the whole wall, and indeed it is still damp there, but it's obviously hidden by the damp proofing. This area here was damp proofed up to here because there was dampness there. One thing that's interesting is if you look here, you can see hygroscopic salts, this brown patch. I'll explain a little bit more, but you're also getting other calcium sulfate salts, which we'll have a look at that, but I don't think that's relevant. But there seems to be a bend in the overflow. So I think these are coming from this render here. So hygroscopic salts, as you correctly say, cause what's called deliquescence, which is a form of condensation at less than 100% relative humidity. Just as salt has a specific relative humidity of 75%, so other salts have specific relative humidity, such as calcium nitrate, which is the most common hygroscopic salt, which has specific relative humidity of 50% at normal room temperature, well, in 20 degrees centigrade anyway. So primarily originates from burning of coal, also from equine urine.
Really?
Yes. You get it around barns, farms, and because all these houses were built during Victorian times, when there were a lot of horses, the fact that you were next to a shop may be significant. I don't know. I don't know, but you can actually see them on the outside. And if you want, I can show you now.
The grey coming through the brick.
White.
Yes.
White.
Yeah. No, the white is different.
That's salt, is it?
That's calcium sulfate.
Oh, calcium sulfate.
So, because calcium nitrate is deliquescent, what it does is it causes moisture when it's humid outside, and it traps the soot, and it's actually the soot you're seeing rather than particularly the calcium nitrate or dampness. Although having said that, if you look at a modern building that has it, and you do find some cases, you'll find that it just looks damp, whereas old Victorian properties, they look sooty, and yours looks sooty on the outside. There's a possibility that you've got a gutter leak, because there's a bit of a bend in the gutter just at that point. There is a gutter leak, is there?
Yeah, carbon.
We had that gutter was replaced 18 months ago, and because there was a drip, a steady drip. They put it on when they arrived. The gutter was folded up like that, and I thought, I don't like the look of that. Anyway, they put it up, and there is a.
It's too long. That's the trouble.
It's. I
can see that. Yeah. I mean, there is a case for putting a downpipe in and at least piping it away from the property.
Yeah.
So So I just wonder whether it's splashing onto that section of wall and being absorbed. So there has to have been a trigger for the calcium nitrate to come onto this wall, and the trigger can be a leak, it can be excess condensation, it can be or excess vapor causing condensation. It can be something like a gutter leak.
I think the gutter leak was before that appeared, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, a long time ago.
So it could have precipitated.
It could have
Yeah.
precipitated. Well, maybe.
Could be.
But something that
The gutter
someone
leak
did
was-
say
The gutter leak was over the door, virtually.
sideways. No, it was not
By
not
that
quite,
wall, by
yeah.
that party wall.
But that would be the cause of the white salts coming through.
Yeah.
Those are calcium sulfate salts, which is a key ingredient in cement and mortar. And although it could leach from your own cement, I just wonder whether it's something to do with your neighbour's render, because that often newer cement has higher concentrations. The old name for calcium sulfate is gypsum, and it's a key ingredient in
You mean in the front of the house, the render in the front.
yes.
The other thing that was mentioned to us, I can't remember by whom, was the wall, the half wall between us. And that was put up when the house it was a motorbike shop there, a double, and a builder got hold of it and put the two houses there. And he built that wall, and the wall is a sort of similar height to the damp in the wall.
Well, that's right, but
So I can't remember who said, but they said that it may be that they building the wall onto
Butting it onto
butting it on.
so what I say is that it's probably coincidental
Right.
that the heights are the same, but that could have helped trigger the water coming into the wall and releasing the calcium nitrate salts. So the heights are coincidental, but the wall might have, well, it would have been the water coming from the gutter, hitting the wall, pushing it into the property, and then releasing the calcium nitrate salts. But the reason that calcium nitrate collects around around somewhere between 800 millimeters off the ground and 1.3 is it's to do with it's the equilibrium point between evaporation and condensation, and if you look at outside on Victorian buildings, you'll often see this brown or sort of sooty line, and it's always roughly what that 800 to 1.3 meters off the ground, and you'll see it vertically up chimney breasts, and you'll see it horizontally. If you look around now that I mention it, you'll see it everywhere. You can virtually every Victorian street corner, not obviously 1920s or after, but you'll see this type. Even on Downing Street, the Prime Minister's house, you'll see it. So when it's been raining, you'll see dark, and that's why they painted it black, in my opinion. But I don't know, obviously. But so you got the same thing as the Prime Minister.
It's great relief.
Good to know you're in company.
Yeah.
I'd say firstly, there's no danger. It's benign. It's not going to cause any rot, any mold, any condensation. It's in dynamic equilibrium. That means that as much vapor is coming out as coming in. It's not a source of water. It's merely salts acting just like the sodium chloride in this jar is. It's in dynamic equilibrium, so you can just not worry about it. However, if even when you ever come to sell, it might be picked up, and somebody is bound to say that it's rising damp because people don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So So then the simplest solution, you can remove the plaster. You can damp proof a lot of damp proofing treatment has been developed to solve this problem, but in my opinion is over engineering. It's taking a lot of plaster away. It's very destructive and expensive. All you need to do is to cover the salts, and the simplest one to use, in my opinion, is Zinsser, an oil-based primer. You want to put 2 coats on. Unfortunately, you'll need to take the wallpaper off to do that. You need to cover the salts at least 300 ml in all directions, so it's a decent overlap. And if you've got high humidity, which we'll have a look at, because that could be part of the issue, it may not be coincidental that it happened just after COVID or building up to COVID. During COVID, there was much higher incidence of condensation and humidity because people were spending more time at home.
Yeah.
They were eating, cooking more during the day, breathing, respiration.
Yeah.
So it could have been triggered by condensation. What you don't want to do is you don't want to create an increased risk of condensation forming around the interface between the impermeable and permeable, because the original plaster that isn't going to be covered is going to be permeable. It's going to allow absorption, and then covering it with Zinsser is going to create an impermeable layer which has all the negative aspects of damp proofing, but the positive is that you can replace it for virtually no cost at all. And you can expand the area. I'll explain more in the video, but it's a very simple solution. It's a very simple solution that will cost. I mean, if you want to do it yourselves, a tin of it's about £20, but a tin of Zinsser. You want to get the oil base. I'll put the details in the recommendations. And that will solve your problem.
And how long after you apply that, could you then re-wallpaper or?
Well, more or less immediately. It's like any primer. You won't see it mentioned on the side of the tin as to use with hygroscopic salts, because it's American and they don't have those problems because they don't have Victorian properties.
Yeah.
But the other thing to say is that modern day anti-icing salts contain hygroscopic salts as well. So it's going to start to be a bigger problem in the future with anti-icing for roads.
Yeah.
All right.
But that's an aside. So we're now visiting the next door property where they had damp proofing treatment, significant amount, many thousands of pounds, a lot more than 3. I think it was about 10 or so, for no particular reason. I'm sorry to say this because I think the neighbours are going to see this video, but there was no problem. It's benign. It was caused by hygroscopic salts that result from historic use of horses nearby. And they would have been released by some trigger, but that doesn't really matter. They just need to be covered, as I'm advising your neighbours to do. You'll have quite a lot of heat loss around the area, not least because you've got the thin wall there, plus there's an air brake, but you want to have an air brake, that's not a problem. There's an echo drain there, which is good. So this is using a Doctometer, which I encourage owners to buy. And it's dry at the base, but it's damp down there. And apparently this is caused by rising damp, but clearly it isn't rising damp because it would be damp at the bottom. You can't just rise up and stop. These are hygroscopic salts. So the dampness started there. I think this is probably the centre, so we're going to put the data
logger there. This is using Gorilla Tape, and the data logger's close to the wall, and it'd be really informative to see what the relative humidity is there. And so that's the one in the kitchen. So this wall was damp proofed up to
Here,
this level,
yeah.
but we're behind the condenser here, and I'm afraid, you know, some of the modern heat pump condensers are pretty good, but on the whole, I find a lot of condensation
Yeah,
behind.
yeah.
You know, especially if you're by a cold wall, as you are here,
Mm.
or I quite often see them where you've got a cold water pipe running behind the condenser, and it's condensing water and dripping down into the cellar, onto a timber beam, and you know, can cause all sorts of issues. I mean, here, for instance,
Oh, we had a leak
Okay.
from the pipe recently. From the pipe, we didn't realise the cold water.
Yeah, we were a bit worried about that.
And got a chap in, and he just tightened it up, and
Okay.
that was done. But that's taking a while to dry out.
and you dry clothes internally, which
Sometimes.
I'm going to say that's fine. I do it myself, and most people in London do, because space is a premium. But you should use a dehumidifier whenever drying clothes internally, or put it into a room with the window open and the door closed, such as a bathroom with the extractor fan on.
Yeah, that could be done.
This is going to
blocked up,
cause.
Nigel.
This is going to be part of
No,
your
it's
problem
not.
here, though.
No,
That's blocked.
no,
That,
no, it's not. Surely not.
Nigel, can I just? That,
What do you mean it's blocked?
Whether it's blocked or not, it's causing part of the problem, because you're creating heat loss. There's a zone of heat loss, so you're getting exactly where you don't want to have heat loss.
okay.
If you see a lot of my videos, you'll understand what the problem is. So it would, if it was running, then you would reduce the risk because you're getting the air flowing out. But when it's not running, what you have is an area of heat loss because you've got the fan open to the outside,
Right.
but no airflow. So the vapor gets trapped in behind there. It's not being removed outside, and the wall is becoming cold because
Yeah.
you've got no insulation there.
But we don't use it, you see, because we can't reach the
I
split.
can't.
So simple solution is to remove it and insulate in its place.
Okay.
You'll obviously get somebody in to do that, but it will only take them probably an hour or so
Yeah,
to do it.
yeah.
So, you know, if you get them to do a few jobs at the same time, it will be relatively inexpensive. If you put in wood fibre insulation here, it's very inexpensive. You can get it for floors from, you know,
Yeah.
DIY store. The reason for using wood fibre is it is vapor permeable, so it allows some evaporation. But because you've got a solid floor, you don't really have a concern about condensation forming within the wall. So you could actually use a PIR, which is a plastic type insulation. It's vapor impermeable, but it's better insulator.
Okay.
Or really any insulation, and also have this condensing dryer proud of the wall, so you've got airflow.
Yeah, I always put it right.
If you press any of the green numbers, yeah, and then it's synchronizing, so it's pulling the data. It gives you a little indication how to use this app, but don't worry too much about it. If you just press the X at the top of that screen there, and then so it's temperature, humidity. If you press the calculator sign top right, that one there, and then the export sign top right, and then export. So there's one of two ways of doing it. Open CSV. So if you don't have an email set up on this, or some people find it easier to use this one, but as a default, use the export CSV. So press that. Allow. And if you have you got any email address here?
Here.
Have you got an email on this? Gmail?
I've got Gmail here.
If you press Gmail. So that's loaded it. And if you send that to me, Simon at Damp Service. You point out it's not very powerful. It's showing 6.34, something like that. And it should be 15 litres a second, but it's a function of both speed and time. So if you have the door closed and you just keep it running until the humidity is dispersed, then you should be fine.
Or do you think the position is
Obviously,
okay?
the closer the shower, the better.
Yeah.
You're getting a bit of mold there, aren't you?
Oh, yes.
But if you're looking through, if you look through here, you can see that it's using the old air brick that was
Yes,
originally in the
yeah.
and because it's an old-fashioned one that's porcelain or pottery based, it has only about a third of the throughput of an open hole. Just because if you look at it, if you calculate the you'll see it on video.
So in summary, this property is suffering from hygroscopic soils. I say suffering, they're benign, you don't need to do anything about them, but they will always show up as a damp patch unless you cover them. And the best way of covering them is with a Zinza stain cover. It's a primer, it's oil-based, and cover stain is the one you want to use. Do, I would say, at least 300 ml above the damp place and around it, but you could even consider doing the whole wall, at least the band, and 2 coats of it. Hygroscopic salts, it's a little bit like a cloud. There's that sort of ideal zone above the ground level where they like to congregate as a band. There are also condensation and mold issues in this property. So the general rule you want to follow is Dew's law, which is keep your internal vapor levels low. If you use the dew point calculator that I show you on the Sensor Blue app, you want to keep the dew point below the outside temperature, and then you'll be fine. Also, I would recommend using the kitchen extractor fan, bathroom extractor fan, door closed, and drying clothes with a dehumidifier.